I'm Alan Robarge, a relationship coach and a psychotherapist, and I like to talk about attachment injuries and healing attachment trauma. And this video is about having clarity and defining what do you want. Very specifically around relationships. What do you want for better relating? And many of us struggle to have the clarity of what exactly do we want. And some of us are distracted by our current relationship distress, how things are disappointing or frustrating or tension-filled, not going well. Or for a number of us who are out of relationship, there is an ongoing chronic longing, which sometimes can be experienced as a haunting or painful loneliness. And when we are managing, trying to solve, working with, being okay with, alleviating the loneliness, we get confused. We don't really have the clarity of what's beyond that, outside of just start a relationship, meet someone, be in relationship. It can be very helpful to have clarity of mind to know that you can name what do you want. Now, I created a list which I think is a bit universal. I want to share it here with you, and I'm assuming it's going to resonate, or a number of the bullet points. There's 6 of them, and I'm calling them desired outcomes. It's what we really desire. And it's not only in the wanting, the desire of it, but to focus on it as an outcome reinforces to achieve it, to make it happen. Now, this came out of an exercise, a homework activity in the membership community I have created called Improve Your Relationships. Every week there is a topic, and every week there is a suggested activity. And there is a particular week that is exploring secure attachment. What is secure attachment? And there is an assignment. It's a suggested assignment. The program is about process, participation, and focusing on your healing work, self-directed healing work. It is not a course that you watch a bunch of videos and you complete a module. It is not about graduating sequentially into level 1 to level 2, not level 3. This is about gardening every day. You have to go put your hands in the dirt, in the garden, you weed the garden, you water the garden, you wait for the sunshine, you plant new seeds, etc. And that is the approach within this whole community, the structure, the program I've created, Improve Your Relationship. And for the week that we explore and we focus defining and talking about, having conversations, what is secure attachment and secure relating, what is insecure attachment and insecure relating. And there is an activity, a suggested activity to create a manifesto, to a declaration of what do you really believe and what do you want. And out of that homework assignment, that suggestion of an activity, I participated in it for myself and really started to think about what do I want? And then in the process, I realized that it was less personal and it was more universal. And I realized, well, these are things that we all want. And to really have the language to be able to name them. So I want to share this with you now. There are 6 of them, the 6 desired outcomes. And I want to give you a heads up. The intention for sharing this is to plant the seed, if I'm using the garden analogy, plant the seed for you to know that when you're ready to engage in more focused self-accountability around your healing work, this is why I created the community, for you to join us and share your process, share your confusions, share your questions, and let's garden together. Let me read the list. Let's jump in. 6 desired outcomes for better relationships. And number 1 is you want to achieve greater ease when relating with loved ones. Now read it again. You want to achieve greater ease when relating with loved ones. It's succinct, it's tight, it's to the point. You want to achieve greater ease when relating with loved ones. When we have a sense of ease in our body, we generally can also link it to feeling a sense of safety, feeling a sense of trust, a sense of belonging, and that we genuinely feel seen, known, heard, connected, affirmed, and valued. And we know all of this based upon the felt sense experience in our body. And if you are integrating attachment trauma, if you have some history of emotional developmental attachment trauma in your nervous system looping, you have a very sensitive to people coming close or distancing. And you're very hyper aware of how, when you're being denied, not acknowledged, ignored, shut out, your body's going to activate and you're going to experience attachment distress, and you are not in a place of ease. Perhaps you know this. Some people chronically live with this anxiety. And when we're talking about relationships and attachment, it's often referred to as primal panic. It's primal because it's innate and built into our history, our evolutionary history, of that we needed to feel connected and safe in order to survive. And so it's really, the stakes are very high. If we don't have a couple people in family, a couple people, partners and really close friends where we get to really just be ourselves, where you get to be yourself, then you are going to experience an unrest. You're not going to be at ease. So do you see how it is so important to, with clarity, to declare, to name a desired outcome for better relationship is to have this sense of ease. You want to achieve greater ease when relating with loved ones. I mean, that's a goal. That's a relationship goal. That's what we're striving for. That's why we do self-directed healing work. That's the star on the horizon that we're working toward. The next one, number 2, you want to experience stronger yet simpler emotional connections. So a number of people feel their relationships are lackluster. A number of people have a sense saying, can we connect? Can we connect? And I've actually created a series of videos in the video library, which is part of the membership community, around what do we mean when someone asks and says, can you please connect more with me? There's a lot of misunderstanding of that, and to translate it into very concrete actions or behaviors and ways that we, again, it comes back to feeling, that sense in your body that we're connected. But many of us need to clarify, we are not going to continue to be okay with these minimal exchanges of emotional connection. We want more. And we need to focus on the healing piece here. The proactive piece is the word strengthening. And we proactively make some choices and engage in our self-directed healing work to strengthen these emotional connections. That is a desired outcome. That is something all of us want. I'll repeat it. Number 2, you want to experience stronger yet simpler emotional connections. There's a simplicity, there's a flow, there is a beauty to that feeling of, time was just flying when we're having fun. When we're in a place of ease and we're deepening emotional connection, we're deepening emotional attunement, we're feeling a sense of intimacy. There's also a quality that when we explain what actually happened, we say, well, nothing really happened. It was very simple, in fact. We were just there for each other. We were paying attention. We were present. We were curious about each other's experiences. We were playing off of each other's invitations and responding and inviting the other one back to engage again. And we were, sprinkling some laughter in there, and we were hugging each other every so often, and giving each other a smile. And there's this hugging, smiling, and laughing. That's all pretty simple, There's a simplicity to this, and that's what we want: a desired outcome, stronger emotional connections. You want to experience stronger yet simpler emotional connections. That's number 2. Number 3, you want to discover new responses for old familiar relationship challenges. So if you have been around the block a bit, if you've read a couple books, if you watched a couple of my videos, if you've been crushed by your own suffering and relationships that just kick your butt and don't work out, you probably have woken up to the fact, and you said you've had this moment where you say, this all looks familiar. I seem to keep noticing that the same thing keeps happening. It doesn't matter you know, who the other person is. And I often make a joke, and I call, you know, sometimes call partners yahoos, you know, and say, well, you know, it doesn't matter who the yahoo is, whatever yahoo I pick, you know, and I'm the yahoo too for someone else. We step back and we say, oh, wow, this is a bit predictable. There's a pattern here. It's habitual. There's this idea of trauma reenactment that gets engaged. We could also call it a repetition compulsion. The mind is just habituated. We engage in habitual responses, and we default to templates, previous ways that we just do what we know. And we don't really do it any different. And a lot of this is very subconscious, because the brain, literally with, you know, neurophysiology, the neurobiology of the brain, is just firing the exact same way. Oh, this is love. This is how the brain fires. Oh, this is, you know, I need to get my attachment needs met. Oh, these are the behaviors I engage in. And so much of this is just very automatic, habitual. We could also then sort of frame it in psychological terms of thinking about mind, and we say a lot of this is very mindless. These mindless behaviors, we just engage in them. But as a result, we notice, wow, these patterns, you know, I've been doing this since childhood. In fact, I learned this in childhood. So part of the healing process to wake up, your self-directed healing work, the accountability to say, get yourself in the garden and start gardening. You got to water. You can't let up on this. But to know exactly why you're pursuing your healing work is to have some clarity on what do you want, what are the desired outcomes. The desired outcome is to declare and to name and to be very direct that you are not going to continue these old patterns the same way that you always have. And I like the word puppet. I always use the word puppet, that when I'm habitually activated in the old template, in the old way of doing things, and my mind is defaulting to some of these not so healthy ways of being in relationship, and I'm just going through the motions, and it's creating more suffering in my life, I really have to challenge myself. I really have to wake up and say, I'm a puppet to this. I don't want to be a puppet. I want to actually make choices. That is the purpose. It's the purpose of what this video is about, these 6 desired outcomes, is to say we can do things differently and we have choices. And again, I keep referencing, got to fold it all back into, this is the program I created. This is Improve Your Relationships Community. This is the structure. It's about process. It's about participate. It's not about sitting back and wondering what you're going to do. It's pick a piece of your healing work, help yourself. You know, I have plenty of resources, plenty of videos, plenty of handouts, constantly offering prompts to challenge people. What are you working on? And if perhaps this list interests you, this is a good foundational framework to always come back to, yeah, this is why we're doing what we're doing. Because in a year from now, we don't want to be in the same place, playing out the same old patterns, feeling that same sense of emptiness, or living in relationships that are lackluster and triggering constant attachment distress or primal panic. So let me read again. You want to discover new responses for old familiar relationship challenges. And there is an acknowledgement, yeah, they are challenging. I mean, we don't diminish that. Some of them are very challenging, especially anyone who comes from a history of abuse, emotional abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, developmental emotional trauma, of an ongoing chronic history of just not being valued for who you are. Your family, just for whatever reason, conscious, unconscious, if they were mean or nice or whatever the scenario is, the context, as an end result, your sense of self was devalued, and you created some internalized core beliefs that you think that you're not good enough, you're not lovable, you don't deserve relationships, and you have developed this scarcity model of you're going to accept whatever comes your way. And then even when you know it's not a good choice for you, you still want to hang on and go after it. And oh, this just is so crushing and hurts us, and it continues to hurt our sense of self. Even that, everything I just said, that it too is a habitual pattern. And we're always hooked back into the same thing like a puppet. The desired outcomes, doing healing work, self-accountability, it's about breaking this pattern. And this is about being serious and looking in the mirror. And I'm very strategically making this video for 2018. We're in a transition of the new year to say, what do you want 2018 to be? These are the desired outcomes that we're working towards. Many people like this idea of a vision board, or really positive affirmations to speak your reality, speak yourself into your reality, think yourself into your reality. There are some challenges to that kind of thinking, which can actually be a bit crazy and unhelpful to many people who have a relationship to distorting reality and living in fantasy relationships. But nonetheless, at face value, the spirit of let's be clear about what we want, and let's name it, let's own it, and use it as guidepost. Again, stars on the horizon. This is the star that we're walking towards. You want to discover new responses for old, familiar relationship challenges. The next one, number 4, you want to feel more self-assured when identifying and voicing your emotional needs. The self-assured piece links to what I already shared about sense of self being compromised when we have a history of being ignored, abandoned, betrayed, abused, not seen, not known, not heard. And it's this sense of like, our worth took a hit. Our, being able to come into our fullness of our own beauty, our own preciousness, our own tenderness, our own just inherently, hey, I'm an okay person, and look at me, world. And we feel an insecurity around this level of exposure and the vulnerability piece of it because we weren't encouraged around that. So our sense of self, our worth got challenged, and some of us then tap into feeling worthless and or have a relationship with shame and shaming ourselves with it, which is the feeling of, I'm somehow fundamentally flawed. And part of the crazy making aspect of all of this is that these feelings get even more exacerbated, triggered, illuminated, or magnified. Magnified is the word I want. They get, my shame gets magnified when I am experimenting with vulnerability. How crazy is that? I just want to love and be loved. I just want to experiment with, intimacy and connection. And there is an inherent risk. There's a vulnerable emotional risk with opening ourselves up to intimate connection. And yet, for those of us who have attachment injuries, a attachment trauma that is unintegrated and the energy is still looping in our nervous system, it really triggers this feeling of shame. Oh, I don't deserve that. Or, well, the person's not really going to love me. Or they're going to reject me anyway. So already we're shooting ourselves in the foot. We have a vision. We have curiosity. We want relationships to be different. But then our brain gets hijacked by this core belief system, this core shame. And a lot of this is very subconscious that we're working on. The point of this list, the point of this video, the point of naming it is to pull it out of the subconscious. Pull it out of this, that this is just the way it is. It is not the way it is. We can change, we can heal. We know that very much about, studies around working with trauma and how the brain has a neuroplasticity quality. We know this with regards to creating corrective experiences of emotional connections and how that can override and overwrite old ways of relating. But this takes focus, attention, and really doing something about it. This is not sitting back and, grappling with procrastination, grappling with the obstacles around taking action. And it means no, roll up your sleeves, here we go, let's go. Same way that, it's challenging for me to have the energy, the focus, the clarity, just to make this video and to be in the right state of mind and to prepare my notes and to edit it. I just do it. You just have to do it. This message is important. Your life is important. Relationships are important. You deserve better. So let's garden. Let's focus on self-directed healing. Last time, number 4, you want to feel more self-assured when identifying and voicing your emotional needs. And the key word there, the key phrase is emotional needs. Sometimes that's literally verbal, and sometimes it's through behavior. It's through allowing yourself to initiate emotional connection or to open to letting someone else in. And it's about finding the right people who will participate. We attempt to practice corrective experiences with other people who don't participate. And there's a bit of again, that's part of that habitual, repeating old pattern where we have to change the type of people that we pick. And that's actually one of the desired outcomes coming up here. One more time, number 4, you want to feel more self-assured, a knowing, a confidence when identifying and voicing your emotional needs. You can say it. You can show up. Your needs are valid. Having emotional needs met, or the desire for emotional connection, does not make you neediness or needy. And to be needy is a good, beautiful word. Many people are frightened and they have a lot of negativity around the word of revealing your neediness. Well, you are needy. I'm needy. It is a prerequisite as a human being that we need each other. And we can own unapologetically that it is a beautiful thing to very clearly ask other people to show up and to say, well, I'm going to do the same thing. And it starts with me. It starts with you. You got to show up in your own life. You got to walk the walk, talk the talk, live in the place of knowing your own center of emotional awareness. And then you practice revealing that with other people, and you invite people in who wants to do the same thing. But to have these needs just makes you human. It's not a character judgment to be needy. Many of us are wounded around even having the need that we don't even voice it. And that's part of your healing work. That's why we're naming it. Do you see how these are so succinct? They're so to the point. They're so universal, but they're really layered. They really capture, a lot of the essence of where our relationship struggle comes from. Number 5, there's 6 of them, of these desired outcomes. You want to walk towards, I love that phrase, walk towards, walk towards the light. You want to walk towards and invest in the kind of people that are right for you. Let's play opposites. Let's take the opposites. You don't want to walk towards the people who are not right for you. You don't want to walk towards the wrong people. And let's see a show of hands of how many of us have done that. I really have a feeling many of us, even though we can't see each other, guilty. Let's pick someone who is emotionally unavailable. Let's pick someone who's really not quite have the skill to join us. Let's pick someone who does not value having meaningful conversations about relationship dynamics. Someone who has a sensitivity and a tenderness to know what it's like in an instant to feel shut down and needing a little bit of sensitivity around needing to get yourself back online so you can come into emotional exchange again. And someone else who knows that it is really a beautiful, risky thing to reveal yourself through vulnerability. If we don't pick the right kind of people and we pick the wrong kind of people, and it's really helpful not to be judgmental here. It's not so much that they're wrong. We're just not in the same place or want the same things, and we're not evidencing the same commitment to learning some new skills. And a number of us, same for us, same for these partners that we pick who aren't quite there for us. We too are coming out of, the dark. We're coming out of our, out of the shadow. We're coming out of the subconscious, of really coming out of denial to say, wow, I've been operating this way for years and there's actually a name for it. I can actually read about it. I can actually do healing work around it. You mean there are some tangible outcomes that I can track in order to change this pattern? Wow. I just thought this is how everybody was. I just thought this was normal. I just thought the sky was blue. And so for some of us, we're even saying, guess what? The sky's not blue. And imagine you're with a partner who would never even entertain the sky's a different color, or it's not the best analogy because we know the sky's blue. So in the spirit of it's a metaphor. We know what we mean here. Again, read it. Number 5. You want to walk towards. Again, walk towards means you have a choice and you can choose to pursue someone who's emotionally shut down and not giving you very much, or you can choose to take action and be proactive and walk towards. There's an effort here. Back to garden analogy. You want to garden? You got to get up in the morning. You got to turn on the hose and the water. You got to go to the barn and get the tools. You got to walk out to the garden. You can't sit on your, you can't watch your iPhone, watch some video on your phone, on your couch and say, oh yeah, I'm gardening today. No, it doesn't work like that. You got to put your hands in the dirt. That's what's captured in this idea of walk towards. It's a practice. In the membership community, I created Project Rewire Challenge. It's a monthly challenge. It's concrete, it's real, and it says go out and do something as a relationship field trip that invites a corrective experience where you get a chance to experiment with different emotional levels of vulnerability, and you invite people into your world. This is not about finding the one. This is not about have to be with a partner or, have this, great, about building a relationship. It's the immediacy of saying that you want to make yourself available to emotional connection. That is a challenge. That's why it's called the Project Rewire Challenge. And we know that we can track it. And at the end of the month, you can look at your calendar and say, well, did I do it? And you don't have to do it once. You can do it 4 times. You can do it weekly, whatever. That's what we need, these corrective experiences. So to invest in a plan of self-directed healing with very concrete things that you're going to put on your calendar and do, that's what it means to walk towards. It's a proactive. We are reclaiming our agency, a sense of will, asserting our will. We are not imploding into a helplessness of being victims around people who don't love us or don't connect with us. We're saying, well, I have got to muster up enough of my own sense of self to find the agency to move myself forward. Agency links to the word will, to have the will to change this. And hopefully by right of this video, there's a sense of inspiration here that even that could create some kind of spark. Yeah, let's go. Let's make this happen. You want to walk towards and invest in the kind of people that are right for you. And be honest with yourself when you're picking the wrong people, because we all do it. Number 6, we're here. Lastly, you want to finally rest. Now, I'll give you, before I say it, I'll give you a heads up. This one's slightly a little poetic. It's a little poetic, but I will explain it. At least I think it's poetic. You want to finally rest in feeling the warmth of coming home to your own heart. This is about self-love. This is about acceptance, a deep acceptance, is sitting in the place of looking at the edginess of suffering and doing some really challenging life review. And this is what the phrase I often use is, this is not for the faint of heart, because suffering work requires healing work around suffering requires strengthening the skill to stay seated in the place that you're hurting and to not run away. And we don't have to do this every day. We don't have to be on fire with it. We don't have to torture ourselves in the fire, but we do return to the fire. We do come back and we sit in that place that is really hurting. And to engage in that level of, I want to be here for myself, even at the times and in the places when I'm longing and I feel so disconnected and I feel so isolated and I'm living with a very provocative, nauseous, fear-based unrest of how I don't have ground in my life and I don't have a network of people where I really feel connected and I don't belong. And sometimes the best we can do, and our challenge, is to be there for ourselves. And the act of doing that strengthens acceptance. We also employ some gentleness and kindness and compassion as we maneuver the bumpy places, and we keep coming back to a centered place. And there's a warmth, there's a belonging, there's something that activates. So you know what? I'm okay. You're okay. We're doing fine. Sure, all of this is challenging. Yes, there's a reality that the suffering plays out in our life. But as a desired outcome, the point of this list is to have a star on the horizon to say, what is the goal here? What are you trying to achieve? What do you want? And this number 6 says, you want to finally rest in feeling the warmth of coming home to your own heart. That's about belonging. And it's not that you're finding that in another person, in a relationship. That, of course, could enhance the practice of doing it. We could have lovely experiences of allowing us to have a shared experience with others. But the type of coming home to the warmth of your own heart, this poetic phrase that I'm using for this one, That's really about you looking in the mirror and saying, you're all that you have. And you're going through this life and you want to make the most of it. And let's practice being your own good company. And practice that belonging is not a place, and belonging is not a certain type of relationship, and belonging is not a certain person who texts you 5 times a day, and a person who, tells you all the things you need to hear. Belonging is coming, really it's a practice of uncovering who are you to yourself. And again, I think it's the 3rd time I'm saying it, 4th time I'm saying it. This is not an idea. You don't just flip a switch and get there because you want it. You get there because you allow yourself to be in relationship with your process. Again, that's what Improve Your Relationships, the community, is all about, this structured program. It is not a module system. It's not sequential. It's not, get some new education and graduate, some particular certificate program, or complete some kind of, a series of information. It's process-based, and says every day can you think about gardening, and it's the act of being in the garden, of working all of these dynamics, educating yourself. You're simultaneously strengthening being with yourself. You're there. You're available. And that becomes the guidepost or the foundation for which how you compare yourself showing up with other people. And the more that you strengthen enjoying your own company and knowing who you are, you won't lose yourself so much in relationship and disappear and lead with a bit more of a false self that is the end result or the byproduct of coming from insecurely attached dysfunctional family life, where you couldn't really be yourself. So you were trained to be in relationships as an adult where you check out, you're not really here. You're sort of a shell of a person. You sort of try to, really try to be attractive and, behave in such ways to get the person to stay with you. And you're really not revealing yourself. And that's not a judgment, because I have done it many times and I continue to struggle with it myself. So we're all in the same boat. We're all in the same garden doing this together. And as a result of these 6 desired outcomes, clearly saying what we want. Number 6 is you want to finally rest in feeling the warmth of coming home to your own heart. I hope that this was helpful. I'm sharing this information very specifically because there are people watching this video who are ready to do this work. And I have created, in my opinion, this is a bit biased, a stellar program of putting together a bunch of these puzzle pieces in a particular order. It happens to be in an 8-week cycle order, and it is dynamic and it is rich, and there are many avenues. And the beauty of it is you really get to define how you want to make it work for you. But you have to show up and you have to participate in some capacity. You have to engage in the program, which means, like I've said, really means let's go into the garden and we're coming together and we're gardening together. And we know the value of gardening. That's what I offer. That's the structured program. Now I want to give you a heads up about this list. There are, I'm creating, I have a document here that you can sign up for and have it emailed to you as a PDF, so you could always refer to this. And I said this earlier, I'm really linking this idea. I happen to be making this video at the time of coming into the new year 2018, and the way YouTube videos work, it's very possible that this video could be up for years, so that it might be by the time someone is seeing it in the future, it's already many years past. But for at least right now, I'm really framing it as now is the time to think in terms if you can link to the new year, to be fresh. Let's start over, let's hit the reset button, and let's be serious, committed, and direct with ourselves about what do we need to do to define what we want to create better relationships. And if this is you, please join us in the membership community. I would love to have you. I would love to have more conversations just like the ones I'm having here to my phone as I create a video. We could have conversations and engage with each other around how's your gardening going? What are you doing? What are you working on? And what do you notice as you hold true to the vision of these desired outcomes? That this is where we're going. We are not going to continue to recreate the same old patterns, the same old relationships that are do not work. They're not working. And please join us. Thanks for watching. I hope this is helpful, and I'll include the URLs where you can sign up to get this list.